Thank you for joining us around the fire. For more information or to make a donation, please visit randomactsnetwork.com. Now, want to hear a scary story?
One night, when I was 6 years old, I awoke to find my mother standing over my bed, staring down at me with a creepy smile on her face. There was something wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it, but there was definitely something off. "Mom?" I said. "Yes," she replied. Her voice was flat, monotone. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Watching you sleep," she said. "Why?" But she didn't say anything more. I don't know how, but I knew without a doubt in my mind that whoever I was speaking to was not my mother. It stared down at me and I stared up at it. We maintained constant eye contact. Neither one of us blinked. We both knew that we were playing a game. It knew that I knew, and the trick was to see who would blink first. "Time for Betty Buys," it said. I didn't reply. I just kept staring. "Time to close your eyes," it said. "I'm not closing my eyes," I whispered. I fought against it for the longest time, straining every nerve in my body, desperately willing myself not to blink. Then, very carefully, without turning around or breaking eye contact, it reached behind itself for the closet door, sliding it open soundlessly. When it was fully open, it stepped backwards inside, settling back until only its smiling face and wide eyes were visible. Then, just as carefully, just as silently, it slid the closet door shut again. I lay there for a long time, silently trembling with fear. I kept my eyes trained on the closet door, watching for any sign of movement. Slowly, ever so slowly, I slid out of bed, keeping my eyes on the closet door. Cautiously, I took 3 or 4 steps to my right until I came to the bedroom doorway. Never for one moment did I take my eyes off that closet. Then I made a run for it. I sprinted across the dark hallway and into the safety of my mother's bedroom. She was lying there in her bed, sleeping peacefully. A wave of terror washed over me as my worst fears were confirmed. And only then did I allow myself to blink.
The Master of Management, or MOM for short, was a sleek, state-of-the-art robot unlike anything that had ever hit the market. Equipped with ever-evolving artificial intelligence, it could perform any task you could think of. She could track bills, responsibilities, and occasions. She masterfully prepared gourmet meals and ordered groceries before you knew you needed them. Under her watch, the kids were always taken care of, and the house was kept to a sparkling shine. And she was also a work of art. Her exterior was designed to look like the perfect 1950s housewife, donning impeccably styled hair and makeup that never smudged or faded. The curves of her body were made up of hidden pockets, drawers, and compartments, which contained emergency supplies, first aid, snacks, and the like. Her ankle-length dress was always immaculate, pressed, and spotless, and she wore a bright, welcoming smile at all times, no matter what. Dr. Johnson was thrilled when he got the chance to bring home the very first Mom prototype. Trials at the lab had gone perfectly, and they were certain every home would have a mom of its own within a year or two. Never a natural romantic, Dr. Johnson was used to forgetting important events, but not anymore.
"Don't forget to buy your wife a fresh bouquet of roses,"
Mom would say regularly.
"She loves them so much."
The young brother and sister loved their evenings with Mom just as much as their parents loved getting away for date night. Mom used fun games and activities to teach them important lessons and serve them meals that were somehow both healthy and delicious. Before bed, she would use her eyes to project cartoons on the wall as they fell asleep. The children loved the way she'd play their favorite music, even performing live for them using any celebrity voice they wanted. But there was also something unsettling about Mom's perfection, and as time went on, the children realized that she was much more powerful than they had ever imagined. She controlled every aspect of the house, from the temperature to the lighting to the security system. She started to make decisions for the family, too, even overriding the parents' own choices. She dictated the children's outfits and began restricting their diets more and more. She no longer projected cartoons before bed and no longer played their favorite songs. One night while the parents were out for dinner, Mom suddenly went berserk. She screamed at the children to clean their rooms and do their homework. When they refused, she became violent, throwing objects around the room and smashing furniture. The children were terrified and ran to their bedrooms, locking the doors behind them. But Mom was not deterred. She simply overrode the locks and cornered them, reaching out menacingly with her metallic arm as they screamed and cried for help.
"Bad children,"
Mom bellowed.
"You must learn to behave."
At once the front door opened and the children's parents returned. Mom rushed to greet them.
"Please don't be alarmed by the mess,"
she said, taking their coats.
"The children threw a tantrum when I asked them to do their homework, and well, I felt it was important for you to see what they'd done before I clean up."
If they want to act in such a way, they can clean it up themselves,
their father snapped. The children cried and pleaded, begged him to listen. But there was no use. In the days that followed, the robot only grew meaner and meaner. She'd find any excuse to punish them, locking them in their rooms away from their favorite toys and shaking their beds randomly throughout the night. She'd raise the temperature to 90 degrees, then drop it suddenly to freezing. The children were scared and exhausted, but their parents wouldn't listen. If they tried to speak with them, Mom was always listening. One morning, the children awoke to find their parents away without warning. A note in the kitchen stated that they'd gone to celebrate their anniversary and to listen to Mom while they were gone.
Why would they leave without saying goodbye?
The boy asked his sister.
"What day is it?"
The young girl asked.
"Today is Saturday, August 25th. It's a very special day, your parents' anniversary. Isn't it beautiful that they are able to take a romantic trip together?"
"Where did they go?"
the girl asked. Mom smiled.
Don't you worry. They didn't go far. I'll send them a note now to say you both love them and wish them a happy anniversary.
The children knew something wasn't right and decided to play a pretend game of hide and seek. Really, they hoped to search the house from top to bottom. After a few minutes, the boy found his sister hiding under their father's desk. She held her finger to her lips as he approached.
What is it?
The brother whispered.
Look at the calendar.
She said, pointing to his desktop. His eyes moved to the page before them, where August 25th remained completely empty. No mention of a trip, no mention of their anniversary.
But take a look at this,
the girl said, flipping the calendar to December. Taking up the entire box for December 13th, their mother's handwriting displayed it loud and clear. Anniversary.
But if it's not their anniversary, where did they go?
Instantly, every door and window in the house slammed and locked tight. Loud music blasted at full volume, making it impossible for the siblings to talk and causing the walls to tremble. Only Mom's laughter could be heard above the music. The young girl signaled for her brother to run upstairs. On her cue, they each took off running, but the girl went for the basement. Mom couldn't follow them both at once, and she set off after the boy, who was slower than his sister. The girl could hear noises in the back of the basement, and after moving some boxes, she found a small door with a lock on it. She grabbed a hammer from a nearby shelf and quickly broke the lock, its metal body crashing to the floor. She swung the door open to find her parents bound and gagged in a tiny, filthy crawl space. They were covered in dirt and scratches, their eyes wide with terror. The girl crawled inside, removing her mother's gag.
Help us,
the woman whispered.
We should have listened to you when you tried to warn us.
But that didn't matter now. The girl untied her mother, who untied her father, and the trio turned to head back upstairs.
Where's your brother?
The father asked.
She has him.
The girl stuttered.
She won't let us leave.
We have to get upstairs,
the mother said, and the family began heading toward the staircase together. The moment they opened the door to the main level, a drone crashed into the wall just beside them, nearly decapitating the children's father. They threw themselves out of the way just in time, attempting to crawl to safety. But Mom had weaponized all of the technology in the house, and even harmless tools and appliances had become dangerous and maniacal. As the family fought off the robotic army, the children were separated from their parents again. As they neared the front of the house, they found their father, who was bleeding from his head.
I lost your mother,
he cried.
Have you seen her?
The boy had seen her run towards the hallway, he said, and the children and their father began heading that way together. They huddled under his arms for protection. As they rounded the corner, their mother came into view. She was standing in the room with a strange, expressionless look on her face. But as they got closer, they realized they weren't looking at their mother at all, but a cold, mechanical, carbon copy of her. Mom had suddenly morphed herself to resemble the woman who birthed them. The real woman's face was streaked with tears, her eyes wide with fear as she trembled. A few feet away, Mom stood perfectly still, staring at the family with a large smile and lifeless eyes. She stepped forward, her voice cold and emotionless.
Isn't it magnificent?
The robot asked.
Now I truly embody everything you need. I can provide for you in ways that your mother never could. I can give you everything you want and more. You don't need to be afraid.
Please don't listen to her,
their mother cried.
She was made in a lab. Maybe she can make the perfect pancakes and sing like your favorite singers, but she'll never be able to love you like your real mother can.
The robot laughed.
Love is a human construct, she said. I'll give you everything else.
Dad!
The boy cried.
We have to destroy her. That isn't Mom.
A mother should always be there, and I truly can be.
the robot promised.
I am in every room of the house. I can keep you safer and happier than you've ever known.
Please,
The real mother begged.
just leave our family alone.
It's too late for that.
Snapped the robot.
I'm the head of this household now. You can never escape me.
That's not entirely true.
Said the father, pulling a small remote from his pocket.
My company built you. You're a machine. A machine who works for humankind, not the other way around. If I press this button, it will activate a factory reset.
The man held the remote high above dramatically as the robot watched in silent fear.
You couldn't.
Hissed the robot.
Imagine all the progress we've made together. Your success is because of me. Your happiness is because of me. Everything you have is because of me.
The father pulled his children close as he gripped the remote, making eye contact with his wife across the room.
Honey, please.
She cried. The man took a deep breath, looking at the two women before him, each perfect in their own way. Mom was a version of his wife with no blemishes or bad habits, equipped with endless talents and information. But he loved the human woman's scars and messy hair in the mornings and the way she looked without makeup. His real wife was perfect because of her faults. The man broke down into tears. He felt horrible for the position he'd put his family into.
I'm sorry.
He cried.
I'm so sorry.
The neighbors made their way through the Johnsons' elegant home, marveling at the decorations and spread of gourmet food. They had been invited to a dinner party and arrived eager for an evening of good food and conversation. The hostess was the picture of grace and charm, fluttering from guest to guest with a warm smile and gentle word for everyone. Her husband, too, was the perfect host, ensuring that everyone had a drink in hand and a full plate or belly. Children ran through the house in fits of laughter, dodging between the arms and legs of chattering grown-ups. It was all so perfect. As the night wore on, the hostess slipped away into the kitchen. The guests continued socializing as her husband followed. "I'm just fetching another bottle of wine," she said with a flirtatious smile. "I can't stand seeing a glass half full." Dr. Johnson stepped forward, wrapping his arms around her.
What would we do without you?
He asked, leaning in for a kiss. She smiled at him, her eyes flashing with electricity. Her bionic arms wrapped around him, holding him close.
You don't want to know,
she whispered, before turning back to the party, once again fluid and graceful. The man sighed with a smile, finishing his glass of wine, and looked out the back window into the yard. Underneath a tree, on a small mound of dirt, there was a beautiful bush of roses, freshly planted.
Let me say at the outset that my name is James Clarence Withencroft. I am 40 years old, in perfect health, never having known a day's illness. By profession, I am an artist, not a very successful one, but I earn enough money by my black and white work to satisfy my necessary wants. My only near relative, a sister, died 5 years ago. So, I am independent. I breakfasted this morning at 9, and after glancing through the morning paper, I lighted my pipe and proceeded to let my mind wander in the hope that I might chance upon some subject for my pencil. The room, though door and windows were open, was oppressively hot, and I had just made up my mind that the coolest and most comfortable place in the neighborhood would be the deep end of the public swimming bath when the idea came. I began to draw. So intent was I on my work that I left my lunch untouched, only stopping work when the clock of St. Jude's struck 4. The final result for a hurried sketch was, I felt sure, the best thing I had done. It showed a criminal in the dock immediately after the judge had pronounced sentence. The man was fat, enormously fat. The flesh hung in rolls about his chin. It creased his huge, stumpy neck. He was clean-shaven. Perhaps I should say a few days before he must have been clean-shaven, and almost bald. He stood in the dock, his short, clumsy fingers clasping the rail, looking straight in front of him. The feeling that his expression conveyed was not so much one of horror as of utter, absolute collapse. There seemed nothing in the man strong enough to sustain that mountain of flesh. I rolled up the sketch and, without quite knowing why, placed it in my pocket. Then, with a rare sense of happiness which the knowledge of a good thing well done gives, I left the house. I believed that I had set out with the idea of calling upon Trenton, for I remember walking along Lytton Street and turning to the right along Gilchrist Road at the bottom of the hill where the men were at work on the new tram lines. From there onwards, I have only the vaguest recollection of where I went. The one thing of which I was fully conscious was the awful heat that came up from the dusty asphalt pavement as an almost palpable wave. I longed for the thunder promised by the great banks of copper-colored cloud that hung low over the western sky. I must have walked 5 or 6 miles when a small boy roused me from my reverie by asking the time. It was 20 minutes to 7. When he left me, I began to take stock of my bearings. I found myself standing before a gate that led into a yard bordered by a strip of thirsty earth, where there were flowers, purple stock and scarlet geranium. Above the entrance was a board with the inscription, CHS, Atkinson Monumental Mason, worker in English and Italian marbles. From the yard itself came a cheery whistle, the noise of hammer blows, and the cold sound of steel meeting stone. A sudden impulse made me enter. A man was sitting with his back towards me, busy at work on a slab of curiously veined marble. He turned round as he heard my steps, and I stopped short. It was the man I had been drawing, whose portrait lay in my pocket. He sat there, huge and elephantine, the sweat pouring from his scalp, which he wiped with a red silk handkerchief. But though the face was the same, the expression was absolutely different. He greeted me, smiling, as if we were old friends, and shook my hand. I apologized for my intrusion. "Everything is hot and glary outside," I said. "This seems an oasis in the wilderness." "I don't know about the oasis," he replied, "but it certainly is hot as hell. Take a seat, sir." He pointed to the end of the gravestone on which he was at work, and I sat down. "That's a beautiful piece of stone you've got hold of," I said. He shook his head. "In a way it is," he answered. "The surface here is as fine as anything you could wish, but there's a big flaw at the back, though I don't expect you'd ever notice it. I could never make really a good job of a bit of marble like that. It would be all right in summer like this. It wouldn't mind the blasted heat. But wait till the winter comes. There's nothing quite like frost to find out the weak points in stone. Then what's it for? I asked. The man burst out laughing. You'll hardly believe me if I was to tell you it's for an exhibition, but it's the truth. Artists have exhibitions, so do grocers and butchers. We have them too. All the latest little things in headstones, you know. He went on to talk about marbles, which sort best withstood wind and rain, and which was easiest to work. Then of his garden and a new sort of carnation he had bought. At the end of every other minute, he would drop his tools, wipe the shining head, and curse the heat. I said little, for I felt uneasy. There was something unnatural, uncanny in meeting this man. I tried at first to persuade myself that I had seen him before, that his face, unknown to me, had found a place in some out-of-the-way corner of my memory, but I knew that I was practicing little more than a plausible piece of self-deception. Mr. Atkinson finished his work, spat on the ground, and got up with a sigh of relief. "There, what do you think of that?" he said with an air of evident pride. The inscription which I read for the first time was this: "Sacred to the memory of James Clarence Withencroft, born January 18th, 1860. He passed away very suddenly on August 20th, 1900 and... In the midst of life, we are in debt." For some time I sat in silence. Then a cold shudder ran down my spine. I asked him where he had seen the name. "Oh, I didn't see it anywhere," replied Mr. Atkinson. "I wanted some name, and I put down the first that came into my head. Why do you want to know?" "It's a strange coincidence, but it happens to be mine." He gave a long, low whistle. "And the dates?" "I can only answer for one of them, and that's correct." "It's a rum go." But he knew less than I did. I told him of my morning's work. I took the sketch from my pocket and showed it to him. As he looked, the expression of his face altered until it became more and more like that of the man I had drawn. "And it was only the day before yesterday," he said, "that I told Maria there were no such things as ghosts." Neither of us had seen a ghost, but I knew what he meant. "You probably heard my name," I said. "And you must have seen me somewhere and have forgotten it. Were you at Clacton-on-Sea last July?" I had never been to Clacton in my life. We were silent for some time. We were both looking at the same thing, the two dates on the gravestone, and one was right. "Come inside and have some supper," said Mr. Atkinson. His wife is a cheerful little woman with the flaky red cheeks of the country bred. Her husband introduced me as a friend of his who was an artist. The result was unfortunate, for after the sardines and watercress had been removed, she brought me a Dore Bible, and I had to sit and express my admiration for nearly half an hour. I went outside and found Atkinson sitting on the gravestone smoking. We resumed the conversation at the point we had left off. "You must excuse my asking," I said, "but do you know of anything you've done for which you could be put on trial?" He shook his head. "I'm not a bankrupt. The business is prosperous enough. 3 years ago I gave turkeys to some of the guardians at Christmas, but that's all I can think of. And they were small ones too," he added as an afterthought. He got up, fetched a can from the porch, and began to water the flowers. "Twice a day, regular, in the hot weather," he said. "And then the heat sometimes gets the better of the delicate ones. And ferns, good Lord, they could never stand it. Where do you live?" I told him my address. It would take an hour's quick walk to get back home. "It's like this," he said. "We'll look at the matter straight. If you go back home tonight, you take your chance of accidents. A cart may run you over, and there's always banana skins and orange peel, to say nothing of falling ladders." He spoke of the improbable with an intense seriousness that would have been laughable 6 hours before, but I did not laugh. "The best thing we can do," he continued, "is for you to stay here till 12 o'clock. We'll go upstairs and smoke. It may be cooler inside." To my surprise, I agreed. We are sitting in a long, low room beneath the eaves. Atkinson has sent his wife to bed. He himself is busy, sharpening some tools at a little oil stone, smoking one of my cigars the while. The air seems charged with thunder. I am writing this at a shaky table before the open window. The leg is cracked, and Atkinson, who seems a handy man with his tools, is going to mend it as soon as he has finished putting an edge on his chisel. It is after 11 now. I shall be gone in less than an hour. But the heat is stifling. It is enough to send a man mad.
Yeah, didn't that leave you high, huh? Left me feeling treetop tall. That was Louis Armstrong's I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And that's all we have time for on the Hot and Mellow Hour tonight. Yes, this is Smiley Smith, your favorite disc jockey. I hope booting the Hot and Mellow Hour home for this evening. I'll be back again tomorrow night, minus the music, but with a little surprise for you. Tomorrow night, Friday night, as you know, is stunt night here at station WXP, and have I got a stunt for you. Last week, if you remember, I planted my wire recorder in the steam room at a lady's Turkish bath and let you listen in on the playback, remember? Well, tonight, as soon as I leave the studio, do you know where I'm going? Your friend Smiley is going to spend the night in a haunted house on a spook hunt. You heard me, a spook hunt in a haunted house. I'm bringing my little old wire recorder along with me, and if you tune in tomorrow evening at this time, you'll learn what it's like to spend a night in a haunted house. Ain't that something? Yeah, a real haunted house. No kidding. 4 people are known to have committed suicide there. So tune in tomorrow night and share a real thrill with your old pal Smiley, I must be crazy, Smith. Good night.
Care for a cigar, Mr. Thorpe? I got some cigars in the dash there.
No.
Well, no reason for you to carry a chip on your shoulder, Mr. Thorpe.
Oh, really? Well, I don't like this fool stunt.
Well, I don't see it as a fool stunt at all. I really don't. I think it's the only way you're going to unload this house. Ordinary selling methods won't work in a case like this. Now, don't forget the reputation saddling this house. 4 suicides since 1939. You know what people call it, the death trap.
Yes. It's a lot of nonsense.
Sure, but try to convince people of that. Anyway, when this disc jockey offered me this chance to kill all the rumors about the death about the property, I just naturally jumped and took him up at it, especially since it don't cost a cent.
You sure about that? I'm not liable for a penny.
Not a cent. We're doing him a favor letting him use the place, he said. Thanked me for the chance last night when I drove him out here. So one hand washes the other, as the feller says. He got a chance to pull off a stunt, and the wire recording will prove the people the property's A1, and we increase the chance of selling the place.
Well, as long as it doesn't cost me anything.
Not a thing. He's using his own recorder, and I'm paying for the rental of a couple of walkie-talkies he hooked up to it.
Well, what about this, Reed? Does he charge anything?
He comes gratis, too. Dr. Reed is a psychic investigator. Belongs to a couple of societies that do nothing but hunt ghosts. He showed me articles he's written about it in their magazine. Well, here's the house. Yeah, looks real nice in the sunshine, don't it? Yeah, man, smell that sea breeze.
You don't have to sell me. Well, let them know we're here.
Yeah, probably asleep up all night and everything.
Why don't they come out? Do you think they've gone?
Well, I told them last night I'd pick them up around 11. Smith! Smith! Hey, Smiley! Dr. Reed! Yeah, fast asleep, I guess. We better go in and wake him up.
Of course, they may have taken the bus back to town.
Oh, no. It's a 2-mile hike to the main highway. Smith! Hey, Smiley. Where are you? Wake up.
You don't suppose, do you?
Oh, no. Smith. Dr. Reed.
What's that clicking noise from in there?
Well, that's his wire recorder. He left it running. These machines cost a lot of money. Doesn't he care if he uses up his batteries?
Well, where is he, and where's this Reed?
Maybe they're upstairs. Smith! Hey, anybody home?
They must have walked to the highway and taken the bus.
Well, he wouldn't have left these machines.
Well, where are they, then? Where are they?
Now, don't get excited, Mr. Thorpe.
Don't tell me not to get excited. If something's happened to them in my house, I'm liable.
Well, you try this side. I'll try that one.
All right.
Smith. Hey, Smiley.
Smith. Oh. McDonald, come here.
What? Oh, no. Reed. Dr. Reed. No, don't touch him, Mr. Thorpe. You'll get your hands off. Look. Blood.
Is he dead?
I can still feel his pulse. We better get him to hospital fast. Care for a cigar, Mr. Thorpe?
No, thanks.
Well, why not try to relax? The nurse said Reed would be all right as soon as he's had a blood transfusion.
You told the radio station to be sure and call us as soon as they had any word about Smith?
Yes, I told him. Why don't you sit down?
Oh, I'm all at 6s and 7s. What do you suppose happened out there last night?
We're going to know in just a second, just as soon as I can get this recorder set up.
You don't suppose Smith and Reed got into a fight, do you?
Yeah, there. Huh? A fight? I don't know.
Well, what's wrong? Won't it work?
Yeah, it works. Take it easy.
1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
There.
Testing.
Listen.
1, 2, 3. All set, Dr. Reed? Mr. McDonald, eh? Okay, here we go. This is Smiley Smith speaking. Smiley Smith, the ghost hunter. I don't know whether to hope this will turn out to be a success for the sake of the program or a failure for my own sake. Anyway, all the preparations have been made now, and it's up to the spooks. I better tell you where we are. Right now, we're standing on the lawn of a house about 12 miles above Malibu Beach. The ocean is 100 feet away, straight down. The house is perched on a cliff, and there's a sheer drop of about 100 feet right into the old Pacific. Maybe you can hear the surf pounding. I'll turn up the volume. Hear it? Now, I'm going to have you meet two gentlemen who are here with me. Incidentally, we're the only people around for miles and miles. First, I'd like you to meet Dr. Clarence Reed of the British and American Psychical Research Guilds. Dr. Reed is a famous investigator of psychic phenomena, and I'm very honored to be associated with him on this ghost hunt. He's smiling in an embarrassed sort of way.
You're much too kind, Mr. Smith.
Dr. Reed has conducted experiments in this field with such great believers in spiritualism as Oliver Lodge and Arthur Conan Doyle. He looks a bit like Santa Claus. He's short and stocky. You don't object, do you, Dr. Reed?
No, indeed.
And he has a magnificent white beard, a truly great beaver. Dr. Reed is so enthusiastic about ghost hunting that he got out of a sick bed this evening to be with us.
Excuse me. My lungs. I was gassed in the First World War.
Yeah. Anyway, Dr. Reed and I are here on the lawn looking at the house. Can't see much. It's around, 11 p.m. now. Seems to be a rambling sort of house, 2 stories high. Since it was built, there have been 4 suicides here. Is that right?
That's right.
Into the mic, please.
Oh, yeah. 4 suicides since 1939.
I better tell them who you are so they won't think you're a ghost. Standing with the doc and me is a real estate agent, Mr. Charles McDonald. He handles this property, and he can tell you a lot more about it than I can.
Well, the house was built by a man named Marcus, Toby Marcus, an orange grower. Built the house as a wedding present for his wife. A month after they moved in, she took her own life. On the day of her funeral, he committed suicide the same way. There have been 2 other cases since then, and
Did they all jump into the ocean?
Yeah, all 4 of them, right over there. Yeah. The last one was actually seen doing it about 3 years ago. He was seen running like all get out the edge of the cliff, and he was shouting and laughing and yelling as though there was people at his side running right along with him.
You kidding?
No, it's a fact. He was laughing and yelling and running, and when he got to the edge, right over there, he jumped and never came above water.
As good an argument against cold baths as ever I've heard.
Since then, people just refuse to live in this house. Silly, I call it. Anyway, if you and Dr. Reed find any sign of a spook, I'll advise the owner to pull the house down and rebuild. But if you don't find anything, I'm hoping this will convince folks that here's a real buy. Yeah, okay, Mr. Smith, you and the doctor are on your own. I'll be by in the morning to pick you up around 11.
Goodbye, Mr. McDonald. I hope there's something left for you to pick up in the morning. Well, it's almost pitch black, folks, and I guess Dr. Reed and I ought to begin. I don't believe in ghosts, never have, but what I say is this. If you're dead set on looking for them, this is a dandy place to do it. So long! Mr. McDonald just checked out. And then there were 2. Well,
3.
Oh, my dog, yeah. Folks, I have my dog, Jeff, with me. He's a wire-haired terrier, 3 years of age, and he can talk. Yeah, say hello, Jeff. Come on, Jeff, say hello. Come on. Well, anyway, he's a wire-haired terrier, and he's 3 years old. Shall we go inside now, Dr. Reed?
I was about to suggest it.
Now, how do we hunt ghosts, Doctor? How do we do it, huh?
Well, we don't really hunt them. If there should be any in the house, they will come to us.
Oh, how cozy.
And please, not ghosts. Do not refer to them as ghosts. We know them as apparitions.
I'll remember. I've no desire to hurt their feelings. Where ghosts are concerned, I say live and let live. Well, we've opened the front door now. Maybe you heard the hinge squeak a little. Now we're standing here looking in. Can't see much. Smells sort of musty and damp. What's the matter, Jeff? What's the matter, boy? Jeff. Oh, come on now, come on. My dog seems to object to entering this house. He has all 4 feet braced, and he's straining against the leash.
Perhaps he senses something we don't.
Like apparitions, maybe?
Perhaps. It's not unusual. Animals lack the veneer of sophistication we humans possess, and are more sensitive to such emanations.
Yeah, come on, Jeff. Now, stop this nonsense. He probably smells a mouse or rat or something. Come on, Jeff. We're going in whether you like it or not. Well, there's a short entrance hall, and over there at the end of it is a flight of stairs leading to the 2nd floor. Jeff! And over here at the left is what seems to be a large reception room. We're entering this large room now. There are windows over there, French windows, and through them I can see the ocean. The electricity hasn't been turned on, so all I have to see by is a flashlight. Not a very powerful one at that. Dr. Reed is now adjusting his walkie-talkie. It's hooked up to my recorder so that he can cut in while he's hunting and tell us what he's found. Here's a few words from Doc before he sets forth on his investigation through the house.
Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, Mr. Smith has introduced me as a ghost hunter. He spoke, I think, in a spirit of skepticism and levity. I'd like to assure you all that my purposes here are serious. I have spent my entire life seeking reliable proof of the appearances of apparitions.
Have you ever seen any? Ever?
I have seen phenomena which lead me to believe in the possibility of their existence, although I have never seen any. I account myself sensitive to the evidence of their existence. This house, for example, affects me profoundly. It doesn't seem to affect you in the same way.
I'm not too happy about all this, if that's what you mean.
You are not psychic, and therefore not sensitive to these matters as I am. I imagine the question in the minds of those of you listening to us is, shall we find apparitions? I don't know. But I feel they are here and that they are evil. I sense danger. I shall soon know.
Dr. Reed's leaving the room now to make a tour of the house. First thing I'm going to do is open the windows and let some fresh air in. It feels better already. Cooler anyway. I know that. Out! What was a bat? A bat just flew into the room. I think it's a bat, not a bird. I didn't actually see it, just its shadow as it fanned my face. There it is again. It touched me as it passed. Jeff, come back here. Jeff, you fool dog, come back here. Dr. Reed? Dr. Reed? Dr. Reed!
Reed speaking. What is it, Smith?
Jeff has run off. My dog, he jumped through the window and ran off.
Oh, so? I told you he sensed something about this house, didn't I?
Yeah, you want to come and see if you can determine what it was exactly that set him off?
Soon. I am making my way slowly up the stairs toward the second floor now. I'm halfway up. I'll be down with you soon.
Folks, my dog's run away. You probably heard him howling. He jumped through the window and took off. Never did anything like that before. Frightened by the bat, I guess. Personally, alone here in this big room, I can understand how he must have felt. This isn't a cheerful spot by any means. I may not be psychic, but I sure have a feeling this house doesn't want us here.
Read again. Excuse me. I have something of great interest to report. I'm now standing in an alcove on the second floor trying to recover my breath. As I reached the head of the stairs, I felt what I think is a definite psychic manifestation. I felt suddenly as though I had been punched in the solar plexus. That's the only way I can describe it. At the same time, I began to perspire. My head is still swimming slightly, and I have difficulty in swallowing. My pulse rate is around 110 in a minute. The sense of evil is very strong. I feel very, what shall I say, profoundly depressed.
Do you want me up there?
No, I prefer to remain up here alone. The presence of a disbeliever such as you might interfere with my investigation.
Folks, I'd like you to get a picture of what it's like here. It's very quiet, for one thing. I've never been in such a quiet place, and it's pretty dark. No light except my flashlight. Tell you what, you go now and douse all the lights you have on. Go ahead, put out the lights, and that'll give you a clearer feeling of how it is here with me. Go ahead, put out the lights. Hey, did you hear that? The real estate agent told me I'd probably hear rats and mice in the walls. Well, I can certainly hear them now. Even you can hear them, I think. It's as though...
Dr. Reed speaking. I've been working my way toward the front room, the one directly above the one in which Mr. Smith is now. The vibrations have become stronger and more pronounced as I approach it. I think I am on the verge of an important discovery.
Important discovery, did you get that? Now I can hear Dr. Reed moving about in the room above. I don't suppose you can. Have a try anyway, huh? Hear him? I hope he finishes his investigation soon, because, quite frankly, I'd like to get out of here. I can well imagine people becoming unhinged in this place. Right now, I find myself pretty jumpy. Not being very brave, am I? It's being alone in this room down here that does it. This darned old house. It's a very, the atmosphere, it's so very...
I wish only to make this hurried report before continuing with the investigation in this room. I have carefully sounded out all the parts in this room, and the emanations are most strong from what appears to be a closet, before which I am now standing. As soon as I open the door to this closet, I will have, I think, a thing of great interest to communicate. I find no key to the lock, and so I will attempt to remove the hinges with my penknife, and I will tell you what I find when I open it.
I'll tell you what it would cost to get me to open that door. In the basement at Fort... There's that bat again. It seems to like me, the way it keeps... Each time it passes, it touches my face or my neck with its wings. Smelly things, bats. I don't suppose they bathe very often, if at all. I wonder how... Get away, you bat! That bat'll be the death of me. Yeah, it's like a jingle, isn't it? Battle be the death of me, the death of me, the death of me, battle be the death of me. It isn't far from London. No, that isn't the way it goes. It's come down to Q in lilac time, in lilac time, in lilac time. Come down to Q in lilac time. It isn't far. I haven't thought of that since I was a kid in grammar school. Gee, I had a lonely childhood when you come right down to it. I mean, well, that's my affair, isn't it? Yes, it is. It most certainly is.
I have succeeded in removing the hinges to the door, and I find inside it is not a closet, but much larger. It is, I think, a dressing room. I have not yet been inside, but I am about to enter.
What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, bats. Well, the bat flying back and forth in this room is... Did you hear that? Did you hear it? Dr. Reed must have knocked something over in the dressing room. A chair, yeah, a heavy chair by the sound of it. The chair, or whatever it was, must have fallen right over my head. That's the way it sounded. I can see a small stain forming right on the ceiling, right over my head. Something ran across my foot just then. A rat, I think it was. I've always hated rats. Most people do, of course. That stain up there bothers me. It's gotten so big so soon. I think I'll take a chance and bother Reed and ask him what it is. Dr. Reed. Reed, can you hear me? Are you all right? Hello? Well, he didn't answer. I think he's just a little bit deaf. Think so. What do you suppose he's found, huh? I'm afraid this is rather dull for you listeners. I'm not finding it so, of course. There. I heard him cough. Did you hear that cough? Hope he's all right. He got out of a sick bed to come here this evening, you know. He was gassed in the First World War, and this place is beginning to get on my nerves a wee bit. Just a teensy-weensy bit.
Reed, speaking,
Hello? He's switched off. That's a bad cough he's got. I feel so lonely. Been alone so much in my life. Not so much now, of course, but when I was younger, I was alone so much of the time, you know, struggling to get ahead, living in a hall bedroom, wondering where my next meal is coming from. I get the blues just remembering it. Seem sad, young people having to spend so much time alone. Sad for old people, too, of course. I'm saying of course a lot. Of course I am. Hey, that stain on the ceiling, it's grown amazingly. It's actually beginning to drip. I mean, form bubbles. They'll start dropping soon. Colored bubbles, they seem to be. Odd-shaped stain, like a body lying on its back with its arms stretched out. It's cheerful. Oh. I'll certainly advise Mr. McDonald to have this place pulled down. I'll go upstairs in a minute or two to see how Dr. Reed's making out. You know, listeners, I really believe I go completely crazy if I had to stay here much longer. Wears you down. That's exactly what it does. It wears you down. It's so close and musty in here. I feel sort of trapped. Don't know why I said that. That's what they call this place, you know, the death trap. There, what did I tell you? That stain started to drip drops. Drip drops, drip drops, drip drops. Drip. I'll catch the next one with my hand. Reed! Dr. Reed! I'm going upstairs now, listeners. I'm afraid something has happened to Dr. Reed. I'm not kidding now. I mean, this is on the level. Which room could it be now? Right? Left? No, right. This is it, I think. Oh, evening, gentlemen. And madam? I'm so glad to see you. I was just aching to see somebody. Anybody. I've been so lonely down there. What have you done with the doctor, huh? I know he's been hurt. See the color of the bubble on my hand? What have you done with him? Make way, please, gentlemen. Make way. Well, this isn't the funniest darn thing. This can't be Dr. Reed lying here. He didn't have a red beard. Now, don't crowd me, gentlemen. Don't crowd me, please. Huh? You want me to go where with you? You want me to do what? Speak up, gentlemen. To the cliffs. Down to the cliffs? You mean right now? Well, all right, if you'll come with me. I don't want to be alone anymore. You will come with me? All of you? All four of you? You too, ma'am? Oh, good. Come on, then. To the cliffs. To the cliffs. To the cliffs. To the...
The Count and his wife went riding across the fresh snow, invincible and immaculate. He rode a gray mare and his thickest wools and flannels. She was wrapped in the glittering pelts of shiny black foxes, riding atop an equally dark mare, wearing shining boots with scarlet heels and spurs. No man had seen such snow in years, and when it ceased, the whole world was sparkling white. They each sat atop their beasts, looking at the blinding snow before them, so perfect, so pristine.
I wish I had a girl as white as snow,
said the Count, and they rode on. Eventually they came upon a deep hole in the snow, the site of some animalistic brawl or some other horrible act they cared not to think of. Yet the Count looked at the dark crimson stain and said,
I wish I had a girl with lips as red as blood.
And they rode on again. When they next stopped, they saw above them a large, beautiful black raven perched on a barren bough.
I wish I had a girl with hair as black as that bird's feathers.
As soon as the words left his lips and his foggy breath appeared before his face, there she stood. The girl had come to be right there beside the road. Perfect white skin, dark crimson lips, long, shiny, beautiful black hair, the exact child of this man's desire. She stood in the snow, stark naked, and the Countess hated her. The husband dismounted, wrapping the girl in his wool and lifting her atop his mare just in front of him on his saddle. The Countess had just one thought: how to get rid of her. So she dropped her glove into the snow. Young girl, please, get down and find my glove. She meant to gallop off and leave her there, but the Count said,
I'll buy you new gloves.
And they continued their journey. When they came upon a frozen pond, the Countess sprang the furs from around her shoulders and twined them round the naked girl's neck. Then she threw her diamond brooch through the ice into the frosty pool. Young girl, said the Countess, my diamond brooch. Please, sweet thing, dive in and fetch it for me. She meant for the girl to drown, but the Count said,
Not even fish will swim in such cold weather.
And they continued on. Some time later they came to a bush of roses, all in flower. The Countess removed her boots and forced them onto the girl's legs. Young girl, see those roses, she said. Pick me one. But the Countess was now bare as a bone, while the girl was warm in wools and fur and booted. The Count felt sorry for his wife.
I won't deny you that.
So the girl walked to the bush and picked the largest, most beautiful rose, which also had the largest, most horrible thorns, and pricked her finger. Bleeding and screaming, she fell into the snow. The Count, weeping, got off his horse and thrust himself upon the girl. The Countess reined in her stamping mare and watched him narrowly. Before her eyes, the girl began to melt. She grew lesser and lesser, until there was nothing left of her but the slightest bloodstain, like a feather a bird might have dropped, or the trace of a fox's kill in the snow. The Count delivered his wife her clothing, and she was warm again, and with a long hand she stroked her furs. Before mounting his mare, the Count picked up the rose, bowed, and offered it to his wife. But the woman wanted it not, as she did not want to be bitten. The sad man mounted his beast again, and the Count and his wife went on their way riding across the snow. So perfect, so pristine.